Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 78 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekend edition and today's chapter is all about paper. So, if you want to know what the heck I'm talking about, all you got to do is stay tuned. Well, all about paper? Yeah, okay. But I need to put it in context. In about a week and a half, I'm going to have grade 7 and 8 students in my shop, each group 2 days a week, or 2 afternoons or mornings a week, 2-hour blocks. And basically what I'm doing now is I'm in the process of getting my shop ready to work with students again. So over the summer, doing all kinds of other things, and one of the reasons we're getting a late start, it's already, it'll be towards the end of October when we're starting. I've just had other things I wanted to get done, so that's why we're starting a bit late. If we do this again next year, chances are we'll start a bit earlier. But after 32 years, excuse me, after 32 years of teaching in the public system, I was very, very aware of liability. And one of the things that I convinced myself early in my career is that it wasn't if I got sued, it was when. I was convinced it was going to happen. There's so many variables when you're working with kids in a shop that things happen so quickly. I remember talking with a teacher at a Woodworkers Guild meeting one evening. He had had a student cut his hand badly in the table saw. This was before SawStop. And he says, I was standing right there. I was right beside him. And he says it was over in a blink of a second. And he was just so shaken that it had happened so quickly. But anyway, I started trying to make sure that what I was doing from a teaching standpoint would survive the scrutiny of the legal system. So as it turned out, one evening at a Woodworkers Guild meeting, we had a lawyer from one of the firms in Saskatoon come and give a presentation about the legal aspect of all of this. And I won't going to bore you with what he talked about, but I tell you, I was all ears that evening. So what he suggested is that when you're teaching somebody to use a tool, what you need to do is there needs to be an assignment about the tool. Then there needs to be a demonstration on how that tool is used. And then you do a safety test. And then there's a guided demonstration. So they're running the saw, the student's running the saw with your supervision, very close supervision. And once they've kind of satisfied you that they are following the rules, they know what they're doing, then they would just need permission from you before they ran the tool each time after that. So that's kind of what I followed. Disappointed that our school division really had no guidance for that. As a young teacher, oh, excuse me, as a young teacher, I sure would have appreciated some guidance, but in the end, maybe it's better they stayed out of it because I came up with what I think works and you didn't get silly limitations put on you by a bureaucrat who didn't know anything about shops or safety. So anyway, I started down that path. So one of the things that really confused me and frustrated me is, so our shop was always grade 7 to 12. Well, not always, but most of my career. So grade 7 to 9, we had a book. And let's use the scroll saw as an example. Oh, my goodness. So the scroll saw rules in the grade 7 to 9 book were different than in the 10 to 12 book. That never made any sense to me. The tool hasn't changed. Why did the rules change? So I thought about that for a while, and finally one year I actually went down the rabbit hole. I sat down, I gleaned information from a number of reputable sources, kind of looked at what the core rules were, and then I looked at what's kind of the next group was, and then I'd already had 20 years experience in the shop by then, so I added the things that I had seen that we needed to make sure, and I wrote customized rules basically for my shop, but they're good in any shop. So I started writing these down. Eventually, they looked like this. Hopefully you can see that. I'm still not good at putting things in front of the camera. So that's what they looked like when they were finished. It took a while to get them to this stage. This is just a piece of paper glued to an 1/8" hardboard backer, and then covered with the book material. They had a vinyl that they covered books with, paperback books, and one of the groups that I know of was getting rid of all of theirs, so I grabbed it. And I made these myself. So I think it looks pretty good, actually. So I made one of those for each tool. Well, then with that, I developed, sorry to step off camera here. So we'll talk about the bandsaw. So here's the assignment for the bandsaw. It's all fill in the blank. Like it's not, like I always had students that had cognitive issues, and reading wasn't their strong suit all the time. So I tried to make it so that I didn't have any teacher assistance or educational assistance support usually. So they had to survive the paperwork on their own. And this, with just fill in the blank, essentially what it was is a reading survey. Now, I do have a key for that assignment as well. It's very simple. When I taught in the classroom, we often didn't correct these because, as one student put it to me, he says, my goodness, he says, if I can't get the word right from copying it, he says, I shouldn't be in the shop running equipment. Sometimes the brightest things are said by the kids. So anyway, then I would have taken the group into the shop and done a demo. Okay, so that would have been done. And then each tool has a 25-question true or false test. Now, the reason I came up with the true and false format is because I realized that in the little classes that I took, like WHMIS and things like that, tests were either open book or true and false. So since I kind of geared this towards what I felt was industry standard, so that's the true and false test. Okay, then, yes, there's a key for it. There it is. Memorize those answers. I did something that I felt was quite controversial, so I'll put it to you, and if you have some experience in teaching, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. So when we were done grading the test, I had all the kids, I had pencils and pens, because they never had them anyway. So I handed each person a test and a pencil, and they did the test in pencil, and then when everybody was done, then we'd correct the test together, but they'd correct their own. Because one of the things in that safety test is I always try to teach for, depending on how your school division evaluates or grades, but when we were in percent, we wanted over 80%. When it was the point system, it was a 3. You know, all those things. And it's moved on from there since I've retired, so I don't even know what it is anymore. But this way, my students that struggled with reading and with all this paperwork stuff, if they made corrections, okay, true and false test, pretty easy to make a correction. So, and I had a format that they had to follow to make that correction. And I thought it worked really well. Oh, by the way, I forgot one thing. When we corrected, I picked up all the pencils and gave them all pens. And then I just watched it because if somebody was putting stuff down, usually that was, okay, what do you got there? Oh, you brought your own pencil. Well, here, I'll take that too. I don't think I had a lot of cheating happening. The tests were so common sense that I don't feel most of my students, I don't think, felt they needed to cheat to do any better. Is cheating possible? Absolutely. I don't think it matters what kind of system you run. If somebody thinks hard enough, there's probably a way around it. But anyway, they corrected their own. We'd calculate a percent, and that was it. Then the paper side of what we were doing was done, and we'd head into the shop, and then I'd stand by the machine. Usually they were starting their project. Okay, so they'd be getting, they grab boards from the back of the shop, and sometimes a younger group, I'd cut things to length for them because they didn't have a quick cutoff. So we used to take a square and a handsaw and cut them that way, but our hand tools weren't great, so I eventually phased that out. But and as they got to their first bandsaw cuts, they talked to me. I'd come to the saw, and I'd coach them and watch them. The one thing I was one thing I really stressed was the whole idea of having your push sticks in your hands. And I've shown you this in other videos already, the whole idea of palming your push sticks. By the way, push sticks need to be by the saw. Having to run and get them doesn't help. So have two of them on every tool. Just make them and do it. That's the best. But anyway, so they would cut under my direct supervision. And sometimes I'd make them cut 2 or 3 times with me watching because I wasn't quite happy with the way they were doing things. But usually quite quickly they'd get through that hurdle. Then it was on to cutting with permission. Now that's something that my older students would often forget because some were too shy to yell, so I'd get messages kind of by the grapevine. One student would tell the next student, the next, and finally, oh, so-and-so wants to use the bandsaw. So it was a little bit funny. And some kids just don't like to yell because the shop is loud, the dust collector's running, got tools running, and for me to hear, they had to, Mr. Brayson! But I didn't care. I said, as long as you're not adding, 4-letter words to it, I'm okay with being yelled at. But anyway, so that's the way I did things. And one of the things that I'm going to go around the shop now and do is fasten these things to the saw. I'm just going to put this one up here. I'm doing this with foam tape. Often I did this with rare earth magnets. I epoxy a rare earth magnet on the back. But I think I'm going to do foam tape. I'll check my rare earth magnet situation. I didn't want to cover up my General International sign, so it's sticking above a little bit. But for now, my plan is to have my students, so we don't have a computer lab here, so they'll take their sheet and a clipboard and a pencil, and they'll have to find the tool. Like for grade 7s, it's simple because it's just going to be the lathe and the scroll saw. So in fact, we'll probably do the lathe first, and then we'll turn, and then about a month later, not even a month, about 3 weeks, we'll do the scroll saw. So then students will come around, they'll find the rules, they'll have their pencil, they'll fill it out. The test, I think we're just going to do the test together. I don't feel like the safety part is very important. You want to make sure that nobody gets hurt in here, and you don't want to have to live with somebody getting hurt in your shop. That's something that would devastate me. So, but with my homeschool groups, this is non-credit in grade 7, 8, and 9. It wouldn't be a credit anyway, even in the real school. Well, it's something you did, but it's not really a credit. So yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to familiarize them with the shop and the tools. And one day, maybe another weekend edition, once I have the shop a little cleaner, I'll show you what I do to acclimatize students to the shop itself, because that is really important. So anyway, I hope you get something out of these. Like I said in the previous videos, I still am a teacher at heart, and I realized how little there was out there for shop teachers, or at least as little as I found. I guess by the time the internet was there, I was pretty comfortable with what I was doing and didn't spend a lot of time looking. But if you're just starting out, please get in touch with me in the comments. My American friends, thank you so much for watching. Most of my audience is from south of the border. I appreciate that. I know that the liability situation in your country is a little different than here. So if you have something you'd like to share with me about liability where you work, I'd be interested in hearing about it, because this still fascinates me. If you are involved in teaching kids or students in the shop and you're looking for resources to do that, the package that I described to you here today in the video is for sale on my Teacher Pay Teacher site. So it's just RLDR Custom Creations on Teacher Pay Teacher, and each unit includes, I believe there are 7 things I upload. The core would be the 5, the plaque, or the material you need, the information you need to make your plaque, the assignment key, test key. There's a paper or an explanation on how to use the unit, and a title page. So those things are available to you for $4.99 US per unit. Now, the one thing that, and my wife Sheila has been working really, really hard to get this stuff up there, and it's taken a little longer than I'd hoped because we've been really busy. But I think most of the welding stuff is now up. So if you're into welding at all and you need to do, I follow the same procedure with welding. So if you have MIG, stick, MIG, TIG, stick, whatever, those welders are up as well. So you can check that out. Remember, you can check it out at teacherpayteacher.com, and my store is called RLDR Custom Creations. Thank you very much. So anyway, with that in mind, thank you for watching. If you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back probably towards the end of next week, I hope. I don't know. I don't even know what it's going to be about yet, but there'll be something, and it'll be a surprise for me too. So hang in there, have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you on the next one.